We are on part 2 of our mini-series of the Mount Rushmore of each individual era of the WWE with all the best content creators on YouTube and TikTok. So stick around. This is the new generation era, and this is Triple Threat Wrestling. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Wrestling Podcast. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We drop daily wrestling content. To my right, depending if you're a mirrored screen or not, is Wrestling Brother from TikTok. Really good content. I had to reach out to him and get him on the show for sure. As usual, MVP's in the bottom. So first of all, Wrestling Brother, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you guys?
I'm jealous because you see our background, so you got like the prime setup for a podcast behind you. So I'm like a little jealous of it, but
you're in the ring.
I don't want your soul. I want that back.
Thanks for not being a rock.
Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna get into it. New generation era. This is a hard one because a lot of people didn't like the gimmicks in this era. You know, you got the Doink the Clowns and the Repo Mans, but there were some great spots we got to talk about. So, as customary on the channel, the guests can go first. You can give me your first one of your Mount Rushmore.
So I think the first one, so this generation, the reason I wanted to be a part of this one is because this is the generation that most people hated, right? This is the generation that, but this was the transitional generation. This is where we got away from Hulkamania and we got what ended up being the Attitude Era out of a lot of these people, right? So when you talk about Attitude Era, nobody had more attitude than my favorite wrestler of all time, which is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
There you go. Yeah, HBK is just phenomenal. Like he's probably in the Mount Rushmore of most of these eras.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. MVP. Who's your first one?
Same. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is on my Mount Rushmore for the new generation era. Now, WWE at the time was getting away from the big, muscly guys because they tried for a long time to try to find the next after Hogan, because Hogan was really played out at the time, and they weren't getting much anywhere by just using the big muscly guys because a lot of them didn't pan out. We talked
Luger.
About Luger, Ultimate Warrior. So they go to their smaller guys, but ones who could really go in the ring, and one guy at the top of the list, Shawn Michaels.
There you go.
Really epitomized the role of just stepping up and playing bigger than you are. And the start of it, I'm going with Shawn Michaels.
You know, I don't want to be the same, but I'll be the same. I got to go HBK. And Matt hit the nail on the head there. I mean, they're moving to a new generation. And we're talking about, like, when he super kicked Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, that was, like, right at the beginning of this new generation era. And it turned him. And he had a good run as a heel there. But then you got, towards the end of that new generation era, that baby face, boyhood dream title win at Mania 12. So, I mean, he could go in the ring. He was phenomenal. He had just great work as a heel and a baby face during that whole time. And he was a workhorse. I mean, he wrestled every event. A lot of in your houses, main eventing with the title against big names like Undertaker, Psycho Sid, Diesel. Like he was, Owen Hart too. Like he had great matches with a lot of people. So Shawn Michaels, as you could tell right here, Shawn Michaels is always going to be one of my favorites. So he's number one for me. So going to number 2, who do you got?
Got to go Bret Hart. I think, as soon as the steroid scandal hit, they wanted to go with the small guys to Matt's point, right? And nobody was more trusted than somebody in the Hart family, right? and the best Hart wrestler was, I mean, you could go on Hart too, but Bret Hart was the total package. He lacked a little bit in promo delivery, which, but what made up for it was his in ring. I mean, he went with anybody in the ring. Him and Shawn had 3 classic matches. He made Diesel look great. He had great matches with Taker. He was, him and Flair, like he was just phenomenal. Um, Now, when he became a heel, and that again, this era helped springboard the Attitude Era. When he became a heel, now his promos were good and his work in the ring was good. So, Bret Hart was him.
Yeah, for sure. MVP?
So when you take a map of the United States, it just looks like a big toilet. My number 2 is Bret Hart as well. You hit it right on the head. Especially like when he turned heel, the promo delivery just went up a notch. I will say, so you had Shawn Michaels. With Shawn Michaels, you need his nemesis, his enemy, and what way to get it with Bret Hart. They had, like you said, they had 3 really good matches, and Bret Hart, he you could put him in the ring with a broomstick, and he'd have a great match. He was that good. You hit the nail on the head with Bret Hart. I can't say anymore. Bret Hart's my second pick.
It's really hard to be the third wheel in here because I have nothing left to say. Yeah. But it's Bret Hart is number 2 for me, and I mean, same reasons all you guys said. And the ring work, for me, he's the best in ring worker. Shawn Michaels is my favorite in ring worker, so there's a difference. Yeah. Like I have to give credit where credit's due. Bret Hart is the best. Mm-hmm. And he even said it on the Stone Cold podcast. Like, he made sure that if you were in the ring with him, you would never get hurt because he was very safe. He took care of you. And to be just that talented and like respect with the other wrestlers, like that catapulted him, I think, on TV because people respected him. They didn't mind jobbing to him and losing and building him up because he was just a great guy in and out of the ring. So, yeah, I would say like he had a really good turn later on, but that was more toward the Attitude Era, so I'll leave that out. But as far as the New Generation Era, Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels, come on, you're not going to get. But the only other match in the realm of that conversation is Undertaker Shawn Michaels at Mania 25. It's as far as like in-ring story and work, but the Iron Man match to go an hour and like put on a clinic, that's just crazy. So
I don't know. I would also throw in that Bret and Stone Cold in terms of storytelling, in terms of just a great match. I mean, a double turn like that, that was insane.
Yeah. No, you know what? You have a great point there because that was a phenomenal match. And did you hear them talk about that on the Stone Cold podcast? Yes. Like, it was just cool to hear the story behind it too, and all that stuff. But that's my number 2 is Bret Hart. So let's see if we have any change of opinion on the third one. So Wrestling Brother number 3.
I doubt it. Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon was so, like, I remember watching WWF Superstars and the vignettes for building him up to before he even debuted. He was so good, so believable. I thought this white guy was Cabano. That's how good he was with character work. I did not know he was Caucasian until he was Scott Hall. And I still didn't believe it. I thought WCW made a mistake and was I didn't know. But aside from his, like, he was great on promos, great in the ring. He's probably one of those people that when you create these lists of like who should have been WWF champion or WWE champion, woulda, shoulda, what if, he's one of the ones at the top of that list. I mean, you can go Mr. Perfect, you can go $1 Million Man, but Razor Ramon is right there because had I been in charge of WWE at that time, I would have put the belt on him over Diesel. Again, much more believable as a character. He could do he was a good baby. He was a great heel. But when you flipped him and made him a baby face, he was surprisingly good as a baby face, especially working opposite of Shawn Michaels. I mean, when you think about new generation WrestleMania matches, there's very few matches that are better than that very first ladder match at WrestleMania than between him and Shawn. And then a year and a half later, they did it again at SummerSlam. And somehow the two guys doing the same gimmick match had two totally different matches. And they were equally entertaining. So I got to go Razor Ramon.
All right. MVP.
Relax, Chico. Yeah, you know, our lists are going to be the same. Razor Ramon is my third pick, and once again, you hit the nail on the head there. Classic ladder. They revolutionized the ladder match to where now you go with the Hardys being the ones known. But you dig deeper, like, oh no, that's Shawn Razor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely should have been world champion, but he did definitely elevate the Intercontinental title in that era. The Intercontinental title was at its strongest when it was being built by the likes of Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we all thought he was Cubano until I saw an episode of Jenny Jones where he started talking like an American. I'm like, where's your accent?
Never in a million years did I think we'd bring up Jenny Jones on this podcast, but here we are.
Razor Ramon is my third pick.
All right. Well, so my third pick, actually, this guy had really great ring work. And if you can joke if you want, but he was phenomenal. And he had a lot of matches during that era. I'm going Doink the Clown. I mean, he had Dink with him. I'm obviously kidding. It's Razor Ramon. So I just had to throw it out there.
I was going to listen to your case for Doink. I was ready to listen to your case.
Well, my case ended there because I ran out of good points to talk about. But
when Dink is the only good point, that's hilarious.
Yeah. No, it's Razor Ramon. I mean, and when I was watching as a kid, like, he was that cool guy. He had like the jewelry, the way he walked and did the thing with his arm, like everything about him was great. And then he had, the good gimmick, like Razor Ramon, the razor's edge, the razors on the trunk. Like, it was just a great, and you guys are right. I didn't even realize he wasn't Cuban until way later. I was like, man, that guy's accent and all that. And I'm like, that's fake. I can't believe that he was that good at acting. But, he's very good in the ring. He was, especially in that area. I would not say he was like one of the better ring workers in WCW, but during that New Generation era, a lot of the matches were important that he was in. And like the first ladder match, like you guys had talked about, like, you can't get any better than that. Like, that was a great storytelling match too, just as far as trying to put over the ladder. They both are trying to put over the ladder as a concept of a match. Like, they're not trying to put each other over. So that's very difficult when you got to put over a gimmick versus each other. But no, Razor Ramon is a hidden treasure in that era for sure. So you're definitely on the Mount Rushmore. So
I want to add, you're cool when your vignette was recreated in a later era. So like Carlito, all of Carlito's introductory vignettes totally rip off a Razor Ramon.
Oh yeah.
You're cool when Damian Priest rips off your moves. Sheamus rips off your moves. Yeah. Like, I mean, these are legit guys that Razor's Edge, and that Razor's Edge is probably the most protected finisher because finishers are dead. Like finishers are just signature moves now.
Yeah.
Because you need to hit like 10 Cody cutters to get somebody out,
Yeah.
right? But Razor's Edges, when you hit that, it's a wrap.
Yep. It's in a rare. We should do a Mount Rushmore of like finishers that actually mean something, because like the Dudley Death Drop is another one. Like no one ever really kicked out of that one. Or am I thinking of the Uso version? The
1D.
The 1D. No one ever kicked out of that
I think
one.
it's the 3D. I think the 3D.
Yeah.
And I think the end of days was pretty protected.
Yeah. I mean, like super kicks. It's a super kick fest out there now. Everyone's super kicking each other to death.
Razor did say in an interview that if you were gonna kick out of the Razor's Edge, he wouldn't pin you.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And then we got to end the third round there with good times don't last, but bad guys do. That was a really good Hall of Fame speech he gave, by the way. And rest in peace to Scott Hall. But we're gonna kick it over to Wrestling Brother for the number 4. We might have different ones here.
I was gonna say this is where we might defer. I do want to say I had a couple of I went back and forth with a couple, so a few honorable mentions. I'm gonna go Diesel's an honorable mention just because he had a very long title reign. I got to go Undertaker as a honorable mention as well, just because he's one of those guys that was a part of the Golden Era, the New Generation era, the Attitude Era, the PG era. Like he has been through it all. So got to kind of give him his props. But this is also when he actually had his first actual real title reign, because when he beat Hogan got it back the Tuesday in Texas or whatever. But this is when, they awarded him after Shawn lost his smile. So I'm going to give him an honorable mention. But rounding out my Mount Rushmore, I'm going to go Yokozuna. Yokozuna came in. He won the Royal Rumble in 93. He, of course, won the title for 3 minutes at Mania against Hart. And then Hogan did the first, the inaugural Money in the Bank cash-in on him. But you talk about a big guy who can work. And again, we talked about Razor Ramon thinking he's Cuban. I thought Yokozuna was Japanese, right? And then I found out, he's in the Samoan dynasty, right? But he was the gimmick. He came out with the ladies that gave him the roses, and he did all the sumo wrestling things, and was really kind of what Rikishi ended up being a little bit like. Rikishi was kind of a new version of that Yoko character, right? So Yoko was great. He had some title runs as a heel that were great. Of course, he ended up getting out of way more out of shape than, because he was big, but he was kind of in shape for his size at that point. But he got kind of very unhealthy toward the end of that golden era, or the New Generation era, where they kind of started burying him a little bit. But I mean, in his prime, Yoko was great, and everyone liked working with Yoko. When Undertaker talks about one of his favorite opponents being Yokozuna, like there's a reason he's saying that. Like, Undertaker will talk about Shawn Michaels being, he's like, I wouldn't piss on him to put him out if he was on fire, but I loved working with him. When Undertaker gives you praise, you did something right in the ring. So Yokozuna rounds out my Mount Rushmore.
All right. I you know what? I do like that. I really like that. So MVP, I'll go to you before I go to mine.
Well, I think a lot of that Undertaker praise could also be because Yoko was part of the BSK. So
I haven't heard him giving Godfather that kind of praise.
That's true.
Or Savio Vega.
So my last would have to be Diesel. So you have Shawn Michaels. What do you do to protect him? You give him a bodyguard. and then yeah, like when he exhausted all of his all opponents you could throw at him, what do you do next for Shawn Michaels? Oh, you build the bodyguard up to where he can be his own entity,
Mm-hmm.
and then you create a story around that, and that story was uh, on for quite a while, and it ended up in a championship match between the two, which also ultimately ended up with Diesel having one of the longest WWE title reigns. And just for
And leaving
that,
with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. Just for that reason, he had to go on my Mount Rushmore for the new generation era.
I have a question, if I may.
Okay.
Does that more or less speak to Shawn's greatness, or does it speak to Diesel that this guy became a star under Shawn Michaels? Because then it kind of became like the Shawn Michaels bodyguard farming system. Because remember, you switched him out, now you bring Psycho Sid in, then
Yeah.
Psycho Sid's now back in the main event. So was it the Shawn Michaels breeding system, or was it Diesel?
Okay. Let me answer your question with another question. What happened after with both guys? Now we're talking new generation, or maybe into the Attitude Era, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe beyond. Who was still relevant, like beyond? You could
So
argue both. Like Psycho Sid did they? All right, so they both end up in WCW.
yeah.
Both
But
win world titles.
Psycho Sid's run ended because of injuries.
Okay.
Um, I I I personally thought Sid was a better character. Now to play devil's advocate in
Okay.
WCW,
Yeah.
Kevin Nash was good, but that Diesel babyface character was Roman Reigns 1.0. Like it was, it was bland. It was like we really got this big old guy with these, slower move sets, and we're supposed to cheer for him beating up Shawn Michaels, who's 6 feet tall and
Yeah.
230 pounds.
Yeah. I will say was with Diesel, I think that he was good in WWE New Generation Era. Like, I cannot argue that he wouldn't belong on there, especially with a long title run. But as good as he was in the ring, that character limited him a lot because it's
Right.
like, it's a trucker. What are you? Like his promos isn't the greatest. When he goes to WCW and he could be more real and be like
Right.
himself, then he
Exactly.
catapults because he's
Right.
like, I have something to bite my teeth into. We're coming from another, organization. We're taking over. We're the outsiders, NWO. There was so much going on, but like Diesel is a character. I love Diesel in that era, but I was like, I don't know what he is though. Like, is he just a badass? Is he a trucker? I don't know. The music insinuates he's a trucker. He does the thing, whatever, but like his promos weren't the best. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I can't say he doesn't belong in there. I mean, he's had a good
No,
title run and all that. So
hey, he was an honorable mention of mine. It lives rent free in my head with The Rock going.
uh-huh. Yeah.
I as far as your points, I would take I would take a Diesel on the mic over a Psycho Sid.
True. But I would take a Psycho Sid in the ring over a Diesel. So it's like together they're the perfect person. But all right, my number 4. Hear me out. Doink the Clown. No, I'm just kidding. I was really hoping in my head that you two were going to take the Undertaker. That's who I really hoped you guys were going to take, because I wanted to stand out and pick Yokozuna. And you took it from me. But it's fine, because he was, when you look at that era, he was involved in a lot of the big matches. He had title reigns. He was, against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 9 mixed with Hulk Hogan. WrestleMania 10, he's fighting Bret Hart for the title. Like, he was always relevant in that era. And I was watching his ring work actually a couple of weeks ago. I was watching some old events like In Your House and all that. When he would like get knocked down, like the way he could get up pretty quick for his size, I'm like, dude, like I can't get up that fast, and I weigh like half of that, or less than half of, or more than half of that, less than. But he was very good in that era, and he, like I said, he was involved in a lot of stuff. He had, title reigns. He had the tag team title reign with Owen Hart at one point. He was all over the place. If you were watching an event, you were going to see Yokozuna. So that's who I had. My honorable mentions, you guys already talked about Diesel, obviously Undertaker, but Undertaker didn't become one of my favorites till Attitude Era started and beyond. That's when he started, like, for me, because that new generation was still like a gimmicky dead man. It was like, but then when he had better, stuff later on, that's when he became my favorite. Owen Hart was in a lot of good matches. He's an honorable mention. I did put Lex Luger, but he's at like the bottom. Like, I don't have a lot to say about him. Like, he was there. He was a part of some big moments, and then Psycho Sid, obviously. So, but yeah, that rounds out the top four. So any other comments on our picks here?
No, I think Lex Luger should have really been able to be higher on this list. But his promos, he didn't connect with the audience. He was one of those first guys that kind of felt forced, right?
Yeah.
And it was like 1 minute he's the narcissist Lex Luger, which is like the most overused word in the world right now.
Yeah.
But back at the time it wasn't. And then next thing you know, you got the Lex Express driving up to go slam Yokozuna. It's like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
So I think that's what killed him, is the fact that it wasn't a natural transition from heel to babyface. And if you look at like Razor Ramon, who we've talked about already, his transition from heel to babyface was a lot more organic, actually. He had the loss to the 1-2-3 Kid, and then he kind of had that thing going. And then next thing you know, I think the $1 Million Man kind of got involved and started calling him a loser and all that. And then it just made it feel organic, but it felt forced with Lex Luger. And so, really he should have been, an honorable mention that we were proud of.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that we're like, yeah, he's there.
Well, all right. So it did feel forced, but at the same time, I also don't think he was ready for those rocket ships.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
But I mean, he had been WCW champion before,
I know up until that. No, this was before his WCW run.
No, he was in WCW,
he was in WCW before.
Yeah. Oh, and then they let him go.
Okay.
I think he had a match in WCW where the crowd was like chanting for Flair or something, and then he got released. And then, if memory serves me correctly, Vince McMahon signed him to like the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Yeah.
And then that got dissolved, and so then they went ahead and brought him up, and he was the narcissist, and it just kind of fell flat. My favorite Lex Luger moment from the new generation is when he showed up on Nitro.
Yeah.
Because that meant he was out of WWE.
First episode of Nitro.
Yep.
Wearing Kevin Willis's dress shirt.
Right.
No, he's right, because he was in WCW, and I think he was involved with like the Four Horsemen in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And I know he tagged with Sting a couple times against like Arn Anderson and Flair, but I will tell you this about Lex Luger. He belongs on the Mount Rushmore, probably the first one on the Mount Rushmore of selling. Because whenever you hit him, oh,
or when he hit you, he would go,
yeah. He hit you so hard he sold himself.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, no. So that rounds out the Mount Rushmore of the new generation era. Next week we're gonna have the Attitude Era, and it's gonna be awesome. So. Wrestling Brother is on TikTok. Make sure you go follow him. He's got really great content, a lot of good things coming in the future. Stick around, and all his stuff's going to be in the description box below. And for us, we have our affiliate link. So if you want to shop NBA, NFL, Fanatics, WWE Shop, all of that is in the link tree down below. I finally broke down and made a link tree, Matt. Instead of promoting 8 different things, we'll promote the link tree. So, but with that being said, thank you for being on, Wrestling Brother. It's been an honor, and hopefully we'll work with you in the future.